Hello, everybody. Welcome to Horror Movie Yearbook. I am Tim.
And I am Willie.
Scream!
Scream!
I hear him coming.
Yeah.
That's for those who don't know. We might get a YouTube strike on that.
Could.
It was so close to Master P's original version.
We sounded so on point, you know?
That was Master P and Silk the Shaka.
Yes.
Correct?
It was a collab.
Is it Shaka or Shocker?
I think it's Shocker.
I think it's Shocker too,
Yeah.
actually. No, when I said it, it didn't sound right. Silk the Shocker sounds right.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of bucking tradition on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went with the ER this time around,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. So welcome to our Scream 6 extravaganza. We just saw the movie at the time of this recording. We saw it 3 nights ago.
Yeah, we're recording on a Sunday and we saw it Thursday night.
Yep.
We wanted to get this episode out, but we also wanted to let it percolate a little bit.
Yeah, I would have felt I wouldn't have wanted to record the next day.
You know what's nice about sometimes those like the Halloween day and date or releases is we could have gone and seen watch this movie in the theater and then come home and watched it at home.
I probably would have done that.
I would have for sure watched a couple of segments of this movie to get a handle on it a little better.
Yeah, I would have liked. Yeah, and we've only seen it once. You know, I mean, it hasn't been out very long. This is still opening weekend as we're recording this, so forgive us if we might feel like there's elements to the film that feel a little foggy, or we might need to be trying to explain things to each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Particularly regarding later in the movie, and I don't want anybody to think that we're complete dunderheads. We did watch the movie.
Paid attention.
We did pay attention to the film.
Did not take notes.
Did not do that.
Yeah.
But we might be doing some debating about certain things.
But I do think that's a good a good caveat to give at the top, because some of our criticisms may actually lessen on a second viewing, or they may strengthen it. We might be like, oh, they did not do a good job of explaining this.
And when we talk about those criticisms, I know for me, I'm going to do something I don't love to do, but I'm going to offer up some creative solutions to where we maybe could have avoided some of my issues. And also, I am going to. We'll get there. We'll get there.
So check out the Midwest Game Nerds. One of them went and saw the movie with us. So shout out to Alex,
founder.
Check them out. I know they'll have a new episode. So I don't know what their latest one is because they usually record tonight. So but check them out. Midwest Game Nerds. Fun. I want to. Real quick before we get into things, and we're going to jump right in. But I want to give a shout out to John on Twitter and John from the Midwest Game Nerds. All you got to do with emo fans is mention you've been listening to emo, and they give you suggestions like Matchbook Romance.
It's
and
incredible stuff. It really is a beautiful.
But that is like any fan of any sort of horror genre, or music. You mentioned, and I want to say thank you because I checked out a couple of those bands. But
literally anybody on Facebook, my Facebook friends list, even people I haven't seen or talked to in a decade.
Right.
If they were like, hey, what are some good slasher movies? I'd probably, all right, I'll jump in there.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. And then it's fun to, that was always one of the good parts about working at a video store, because you could drill down too. What are you looking for tonight? Are you looking for something science fiction-y?
Yeah, give me some details. You want something really, a lot of smut? Or you want something a little bit, more mainstream? Welcome
to that back corner.
You want the burning? I'll show you the burning.
Excellent. So check them out. And then if you have any more or if you want to write in your Scream thoughts, horrormovieyearbook@gmail.com. We love emails. I wish we had it would be a dream of mine. These are a way of the past, especially on podcasts. Not a way of the past, but I'd love to a sports radio type call-in show where you get callers.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, so for horror and stuff. Oh my god, it'd be that's a dream.
That'd be delightful. How cheap is it to set up a phone line?
Not probably not very.
Probably not.
People there's a way to do it with YouTube and stuff, but. But it's having the time and the you have to commit to that stuff a few times. Anyway,
you're not going to have as much time soon enough. Are we going to mention this off the top that this will probably be your last show for a little bit?
Yeah, and also if this thing cuts out halfway through us recording,
if I'm by myself for the back half of this,
if you all of a sudden hear Nikki's voice,
or
Josie's voice, it's because I'm having a baby at any point.
It could happen at any time.
It could happen, but
it's hard to say.
I still think we're a week or two away. But yeah, after this, I'm going to be out.
Hiatus.
Yeah, you and Nikki have talked about doing some stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to make any promises. It's just life, but we're going to try.
Yeah.
We're going to try.
I think that would be
I think you and I talked about it a bit, and, Nikki and I can certainly record some stuff, after Josie's bedtime and, get it over to you while you're hanging with baby and baby mama.
Record it and edit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might give you something to do. Yeah, you'll probably be looking for things to occupy your time during baby naps.
Yeah, I might be back here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, yeah. You could flee back to this house.
It's like this kid, like you're taking me in.
There might be no hiatus. You might get more episodes.
I might be recording that daily call show in your basement.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to invest in that pull out couch here soon. Anyway, but yes. So congratulations, Tim.
Yeah.
A future congratulations to you on Babby.
So cool. Are you ready to get into this?
Yeah. So let's do our brief thoughts. No spoilers, so that the folks who maybe haven't seen it and don't want to be spoiled can at least get our highly esteemed opinions on the film.
I don't know. I think like when it comes to Scream and Friday the 13th especially. I think we do have.
I think we have
very learned opinions.
I think so. We've seen the movies multiple times.
This will be an issue. I said this, and then as I was walking today, I'm like, oh man, I have some questions about Scream 4 that I didn't ask Willie because I know it's fresher in his head than mine, and I don't watch Scream 4 very often.
Yeah,
but
well,
anyway.
Scream 4 would be that's the foggiest one, right?
Yeah.
Both in terms of what I remember and in terms of the cinematography. Anyway, got to throw a dig at Scream 4 in there. I don't actually hate Scream 4. I just don't think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scream 6. Tim, you want to start?
Scream 6, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Scream 6?
So, coming out of this, we talked a little bit about it. And like you said, we're going to try to stay away from spoilers here off the top. I thought I had a ton of fun during this movie, and I want to give people, caution. There may be some stuff we come across as when we get to really into the spoilers where we may sound like we're coming across a little bit negative on this movie, I think, or at least I am.
Yeah, I would agree.
But honestly, we're about to record over an hour or so of talking about a single movie straight. I mean, we're gonna get nitpicky, so just a heads up. That's the point of these things. Yeah, so anyway, I came out of this, and the first thing I thought is man, that was a silly Scream movie, and I think some of it is intentional. I think it might be the silliest in some ways. 3 is intentionally silly to me.
That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 is I approach 3 as an ensemble comedy half the time. 4 has moments of silliness, but even that is trying to be too cute, in my opinion. Especially that opening. This, I don't want to say it lost me because I was still with it. I was never bored during this movie, and as I get older, especially when it comes to horror movies, the worst thing a horror movie can do is bore me to tears. In this, I was with it from beginning to end. I was locked in. I was into it, and once it got to the last 15 minutes, it started to get fuzzy, and then a certain performance got really, really hammy and over the top, and it had been throughout. But it really stepped up a notch towards the end, and it took me out of the movie a little bit. And on top of it, and I don't think this is spoilery, I have no issue, I think I put it this way in my text to you the other day. I have no issue with some of the characters that lived in this movie.
Okay. I
have issues with them surviving this movie.
There is a difference.
Yeah, because I like the characters. And I do want to see that. I'm not like one of these people who wants to see characters die for my own, so I can feel something. I like them. I want them to live. I want characters I like to live, and I like these characters, especially this main group of new people. My issue is with them surviving what they went through in this movie because it is absurd. This is the most absurd when it comes to surviving in this series, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in this movie. And I'm not saying that none of the movies have had that in the past. I think you have to suspend your disbelief for all of the Scream movies to a certain extent. But even the first, like for instance, like how would Billy and Stu have gotten away with that, even if they like killed it was never going to happen. Anyway, just you have to like try and suspend disbelief. I think that's only fair, but I can only stretch that so far before I start to go, that's just kind of I'm not even going to call it a plot hole. That's just kind of lazy writing. And in this case, when it comes to people being attacked or wounded or whatever and making it out, I mean, yeah, like Dewey in Scream 2, you could argue, like, how the hell did he survive that? Like, so, I mean, it's not that there's never been, like, questionable survivals here and there. There's just a lot of it in this.
I was going to say.
And it's not just the survivals for me. What compounds that fact, it's not just the survivals. It's the people who get wounded, and it might not be something where I go, well, this person's dead meat. But they get wounded, and then by end of movie, they're just kind of chatting and acting like they're not bleeding from multiple. Like there's no. There's a character who is stabbed in the film.
Yeah.
Who is taken out of the picture for a while and returns towards the end, at the end of the film.
Is this the dude from we were talking about when we were waiting outside the theater? We were just like, or not the dude, like you know what I mean?
Yes. And the character shows back up at the end when the dust is settling from the big finale, and is just like has like a bandage on and is like, "Hey guys, what did I miss?" And it's crazy enough to me that like this person was was patched up that quickly, B was allowed to leave the hospital, C like somehow made it's just insanity. Like it's very silly. And I've heard there have not been a ton of interviews with the directors yet, like post the movie releasing. There has been one that I read, and there was some questioning of the decisions we're kind of talking about here. And they basically said, we just really wanted a happy ending this time around.
Yeah, for sure. And
I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Like, they didn't want all the characters to be dead by the end of the movie, you know? We wanted like a feel good. So I get them. I know why they brought that character back, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I get it, but I don't know if it was the right. I don't know.
So yeah. For sure, and honestly, that kind of sums up my mixed positive, I should say, feelings on this movie, because I like the movie. Yeah. And just a couple real quick positives before, because I did like the movie, and here's a little bit why. The change of setting was nice, and I know they've been out of Woodsboro before. But
it's been a while, though.
Yeah, we went back to Woodsboro in 4 and 5, right? 3 was in Hollywood.
That was in that came out in 2000?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And honestly, New York is a setting that we, as horror fans, have waited to see taken advantage of in this way. Because we all know Jason Takes Manhattan does not.
No.
Now, I do think that there are very obvious budget limitations when it comes to this. When we horror fans have this in our head, it's like anything. I always like to think of like pro wrestling or sports or anything. Like there are outside forces working against the dreams that you have in your head that you don't think of. Like I want to see Ghostface running around all of New York City, Central Park, Times Square. I want to see
Statue of Liberty.
I want to see all this stuff, but I also know like I'm not footing the bill for this. Like it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of, you have to get everybody on set. There are all these different things. Mm-hmm. I think this movie does a good enough job in a couple of key sequences, the opening and the subway scene, at least making it feel like New York City to me. Whether it was shot there or not, a lot of it, I think it takes advantage of the setting in very clever ways.
Well, I think the nice thing about it is they don't, I think, yes, I'm sure that they would have loved to have had Ghostface pop up in like some of the landmarks, but the landmarks always feel like they pop up in these movies that take place in New York, and the movie feels almost disingenuous because all you're seeing are the landmarks.
Right.
At least in this one, like their limitations in terms of what they could probably do led them to doing things that I think all people who have been to New York or live in New York are familiar with. A bodega, a subway.
For sure. Yep.
You know, alleys that feel a little sketchy. Like that's it. It captures enough of like I think the day-to-day New York beats that. I mean, I'm sure that most people from the area that have watched this have been like, that is obvious, that is not New York. I mean, I've been there a couple times, but it felt enough to me, at least as a Midwestern guy. I bought into it.
Me too.
Me
too. And it was good to see a movie kind of, like I said, take advantage of its setting.
Mm-hmm.
And also
no cruise ship in this one.
I want to give a shout out to, because I think I was kind of harsh on this actress in the first movie. And I don't think it's all her fault. I don't think she had a handle on the character, but Melissa Barrera as Samantha. I thought she carried this movie a lot of the time. I think she's terrific in this movie, and
yes,
I
agree.
I was a little bit surprised. I think she finally has. I don't want to say finally because it's only been 2 movies, but it felt to me like she had a handle on her character in this one. I agree. Where I don't think she did in the first one. That balance of, seeing Billy and just being kind of on edge a lot of the time. I think she was much more comfortable here, and honestly, I think she's my favorite performance in the movie, and I think she does a great job.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to that because she's a part of the reason why I like this group of movies quite a bit. These last 2 movies is I really like the kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and
100%.
I'm happy to see, without spoiling, some of them or all of them are. Well, some of them's not a spoiler. Some of them survive, but I'm happy to see this group continue to move forward. I'm happy it's their franchise now.
I'm happy it's not Scream 4, where they were like, hey, look at all these new kids that you'll get to watch moving forward. Nope. Killed all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, spoilers for Scream 4. It is what it is at this point. We're reviewing Scream 6, so...
so I want to throw to you now, because those are my general thoughts.
Yeah. Scream 6 is it's like a tale of 2 movies for me, right? So in some aspects, in some areas, I legitimately think it's the best movie since 2 in some ways. When I'm talking about sequences, chase sequences, or tension sequences, or action sequences, this is the best stuff I've seen since Scream 2. I mean, I think that there are multiple sequences in this movie that are like very tense, very well directed, very well acted, very well staged and choreographed. They just fire on all cylinders, and they feel classic Scream to me, just in a bigger setting with the New York thing, taking advantage of that bigger setting. So in that respect, I'm like, man, this is way up there on the list. In terms of character development, another major point in this movie's favor I think it's one of the best in terms of developing characters. I think it does a wonderful job of taking characters that were established in the last movie and making you like them more and making you more interested in their dynamics between each other, making you care about them. I mean, all of it, all the above. And I think all the actors have all found their footing in who these characters are. And I think everybody from, Melissa Barrera, who you mentioned, to Mason Gooding, to, I mean, all of them. I think that they really just... I'm interested in all these people, and I like watching them. I also think there's enough development. I don't know if development's I think they do a fair enough job with our legacy cast, and I count Kirby as well. I think they do a fine enough job with, we'll talk more about that. I don't want to talk too much about that. They're there, and I don't think there's anything wrong with how they're written by any means. I actually like some of the developments, particularly with Gale. I know a lot of people are down on what happens. I think that's by design. I get it. But I think it rings true, and it rings true to how real the character of Gale and Dewey and Sidney have always felt in these movies. Like, people do things that aren't always the decisions that you'd like to see them make, but sometimes that's what they do. So we'll get into that. On the flip side, I think it is the first time in the Scream franchise with a Scream sequel, and I'm counting 4 as well, where I went, this feels like just an entry in a franchise, which is funny. I think you mentioned that too when we were talking about it, which is funny because there's like this commentary on this being a franchise now,
right,
in the movie. And this is the first time I went, this just feels like another Scream movie, but this just feels like that's not right. It didn't. It felt like a slasher sequel. It felt like a part 6 to me.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, in terms of the plot, it felt like a part 6. It felt like
expectations are funny because I think you and I think we've even mentioned it. And honestly, I think it had something to do with them looking back on it now, titling this Scream 6, like embracing the fact that, this is the 6th movie in the series, whereas the last one was Scream. They basically said, no, this is the 6th Scream movie. But like, I think I went in a little bit expecting this to be the 2nd movie in a trilogy. Where
it is not.
It is the 6th movie in a franchise. For good and for bad. And I think maybe with those expectations in mind on a rewatch, I think that might help it a little bit.
And I think there might be more there. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a meta element to that, perhaps.
During a certain scene, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the scenes I would like to go back and rewatch. We'll talk about that later.
There's a few, for sure. But yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It's not perfect by any means. I have some plot issues, and I have some issues with, I've never felt like the Scream movies have, I don't even want to call it, I think calling it lazy, I feel like the script just needs a little tightening up. I feel like there's a handful of things that if they had an extra pass or an extra moment to have, this moved fast production wise.
Yeah.
I think it needed a couple more months of writing to simmer.
And it's as good as this movie is doing box office wise, and they've basically said, like, we want another one. I hope they have a third idea in mind, and I hope a third movie in mind in this series, and I hope they have it ironed out a little bit.
My understanding is that there's like work before this, while this movie was in production, was already being started on the script for 7. Like, they were already starting to like crack open ideas for it.
And here's the thing with this is
they want to be shooting by October.
If I'm Paramount,
by the way,
if I'm Paramount, like let's say I've got my cigar out, I'm chomping on the cigar, I'm counting my money.
Hey there, Paramount exec.
I'm counting my money after Scream 5, and I'm looking at what's going on with one of my stars right now, Jenna Ortega, who is like all over the place.
Yes.
Like, you cannot get away from Jenna Ortega.
No.
And I'm sitting here and I'm going like, we need to capitalize on this. We have her in one of our franchises. Yeah, we need to push these things out. You guys need to get moving on. Now, I don't think that's the best thing creatively. Obviously, judging by the box office, it was the best thing financially.
For sure.
Financially.
For sure.
But there is that push and pull between creative and business, especially when you start to get into these bigger franchises, that I think as a fan, you kind of have to accept some of that too.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see this thing as a fan, I want to see these things as soon as possible a lot of the time. I'm lying to myself.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
What you're saying is true too, where like, yeah, they probably did not have the time to really iron out a lot of the stuff that doesn't work in this movie.
And it just feels to me like, and like, I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm not going to pretend to be smarter or more clever than the writers of Scream 6. But there are a couple things where I went, God, if you had made this change here, I feel like it would have helped. It would have made more sense. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, they felt like obvious, like little bits to me where I was like, why did you go that route? Why didn't we just kind of, not major things, just smaller, yeah.
But they do, I agree with you. I think they add up, and I think they kind of come to a head at the end of this movie. Yeah. When we get into some stuff too, in the last 10 or 15 minutes that I actually really like.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But it's all
I've heard a lot of complaints. This is not a spoiler thing. I've heard a lot of complaints about, like, regarding the third act. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there's a killer reveal in the third act. It's a Scream movie. And that there is killer monologuing to explain why killer is doing killer things. I've heard a lot of complaints about the motive and the reveal. I actually don't have any issues inherently with either of those things. Mm-hmm. I have an issue with the plausibility of everything leading up to that.
For sure.
In retrospect, I go, huh?
Yep.
Wait a second. Yeah. So anyway.
Where do you want to rank these real quick? Where do you rank this one?
Yeah, and I know it's funny because I mentioned ranking. I want to throw a caveat here by saying I've not seen this a second time. I do not feel like this is a firm ranking by any means. It needs to be watched again. I
think we're similar with stuff we're fans of. Is we like to watch it first, and then on a second one, that's when we really start to like think about
dissect a bit.
Dissect, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right now, this one is behind 1, 2, and 5 for me.
Okay.
Overall, it might be behind 3. I think it's ahead of 3. Probably it's going to wind up ahead. I think it's going to be 1, 2, 5, 6, 3, 4 is what it's going to be.
Okay.
I think there's enough that works in this, and I think this is a movie that's going to be like immensely rewatchable, which I think the greatest Scream movies are immensely rewatchable. I think that this one will wind up right in the middle of the pack for me. Yeah.
So for me, I have got it. I guess I'm behind. I'm with you. I go 1, 2, 5, but I have this one solidly ahead of 3, and I like 3. But I have this one solidly ahead of 3 for some reasons we'll get into.
Every time I watch 3, I enjoy it more. That's the issue with me is I can't. That one's always like gradually. It's not gonna overtake 5. I think 5 is a better movie.
Yeah,
but
and honestly, 4. I'm not a 4 fan. I know you have rewatched it. Are you any more of a fan? You mentioned a little bit.
No. 4 is just kind of where it is. And I like all the Scream movies. I do.
Yeah.
I don't love all the Scream movies.
Right.
And 4 is not a movie I love. Right. I think it's got stuff that works. I think they all do.
Yeah.
But for me, when you look at the elements that I think make a Scream movie, which is mystery element, character development, or character progression, because we get this rare slasher franchise where we get to see his characters grow. So character development, the killer reveal, all that stuff, all those chase sequences, all those things that make Scream for me, it's like the weakest in like all of those categories for me. So that's why I don't think it could possibly, right. I mean, we'll see with Scream 7, who knows? But yeah. So
this one though, I've got where I'm kind of waffling is on a rewatch if I'm going to put this above 5.
It's possible.
I don't think it's going to jump. It's not because I really, really like 2. 1 is untouchable. 1 will be my favorite of this.
Yeah. Nothing for me. Nothing is going to jump 1 or 2. I don't think at this point. So
it would have to be like I can't even see it. Like just because,
I can't tell you what
just
that would be.
Because of what that movie means to me. It's just not going to happen. Probably more like 99% sure.
Yeah.
I can see it flipping with 5 because there are things I'm not crazy about in 5.
It's funny.
Yeah. That's where I can see on a rewatch. It reminds me a little bit of how my feelings were towards Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
Where I came out thinking like, okay, this resets that franchise in a way that I really like. But then as I rewatch it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really crazy about that. And then Kills, I just, like on a second rewatch, I just gave into it. I'm like, this is the best.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
You let it enfold you, you know?
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if they take it as weird or out as Halloween ends.
Oh, God, please.
Because they could.
I liked Halloween ends, but, but don't do that.
They could.
They could, yeah. Ooh, boy. Oh, no.
But let's get it. Let's spoil it. I'm right in the middle, too.
So anyway, we both enjoyed Scream 6. It's not our favorite movie in the franchise. I think it's a worthy sequel. I just think it has some issues that I don't feel like I have with other Scream films. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So here's what we like
Spoiler
to do.
time.
With these, we're going to spoil now. So that was a good 30 minutes of non-spoilers. So we're going to spoil now. And what we like to do, especially with these bigger franchises that we love, Halloween, whenever a Friday the 13th movie comes out, but this one, we like to go character by character through this.
It just feels like the easiest way to get all of our thoughts we want to get out without missing anything. And,
yes. Yeah, and it's a fun way to do things. It's a fun way to approach things. Let's start here. They're called the Core 4 in the
Core
movie.
4. I like the Core 4.
I like that name.
Fun.
I thought it was fun.
It's cute.
And I like the Core 4. So we're going to start with the Core 4. Let's start at the top. Let's start with Samantha.
Yeah, well, we've already mentioned Melissa Barrera. I think I completely agree with you. I think her performance is much stronger in this. I think the writing for her character is stronger in this too. And she's not saddled with at this point we're past the whole coming to terms with the Billy thing. Well, the character hasn't, but like we don't need the exposition dumps and the backstory stuff anymore. We know who she is. We know who her dad was. We know how she feels about it, and we can kind of move on from that, which I think makes her load lighter in a sense. She's able to do more with the character. She's not weighed down by that stuff. I think Sam is cool. I like Sam as a lead. I particularly like the fact that we kind of have a couple of co-leads now with Sam and Tara. I like that the two sisters feel like two halves of a whole at this point. I think that was a cool. I'm sure the popularity of the Tara character and on a bigger scale, the popularity of Jenna Ortega probably made her character bump up a little bit in terms of being a little less of a supporting character this time around, a little bit more of a co-lead. But I like that.
It's unique, right?
It's unique. It's something you don't see often.
And honestly, I would say, here's what I'll say about the Core 4 as a group. It's kind of turned into like a final group, not just a final girl.
Love it.
Like it's a group of people that we want to see overcome these.
the chemistry between all four of them is great. And but you know, obviously Sam is the linchpin of the whole thing. She is our lead by and large. And I like that she's still dealing with the Billy Loomis stuff in this. I like that they kept that mostly downplay. It didn't happen constantly throughout the movie this time around where we got CG Skeet. But I like that he popped up. He had some really funny dialogue.
Yeah, his one line, like when he first like.
Well, what does he? Does he say like, "Look at this fucking place"?
It's really good. The way he delivers it is awesome.
Great.
It might be one of his best deliveries.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
I also like the viciousness of Sam. Like, I like that she's different than Sydney. She's strong like Sydney, but she's got a darkness to her that Sydney never had. And I like that.
Yep.
I like that she's willing to give into her impulses on occasion when the time arises. And I think it makes her an interesting character, and I think it makes her stand out from a lot of other final girls, just in general, not just Sydney, but a lot of other final girls or final anyone's. I will say I dug the element of these online rumors starting about her, because it felt real to me. That felt like something that we would see.
Yep,
is a bunch of conspiracy theories on the internet about like maybe she really did it and yada yada yada.
And that's a clever way to pull from a lot of like what fandom has been talking about.
I like that. Yeah, and it feels like an extension of our motives from 5. It feels like an extent. Like now we're not with these two movies so far. We're not necessarily dissecting horror movies anymore. We're kind of dissecting like people's responses to the world around them, like kind of dissecting the social media age a little bit and like what it's doing to people.
Yeah. How it makes you treat other people.
Absolutely.
Because like she's a real person that they are throwing these awful,
horrible things at.
Right.
I will say that I think there's an element of that whole Sam conspiracy theory, Richie wrongly accused thing that I wish there was a tweak on, and I mentioned like the idea of tweaking one or two things. I think that the killers and the motive would have been infinitely more interesting if they weren't the ones creating this narrative, if they believed the narrative that was created by the general public.
Yeah.
I think it would make the killers more, like, weirdly more sympathetic in a way, in terms of, like, if they actively believed that Sweet Richie didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's more interesting than what we got. I'm cool with what we got, I guess, but I don't know. That's one little thing I would say, like, I feel like that's another...
Like, just a little tweak. Because you wouldn't have to change much of the whole movie, yeah.
No, I think there's one line dropped about... like, oh, we knew he did all that.
Yeah.
And then there's one line dropped about, like, yeah, I started those online rumors. And that's it. Like, remove that, and you're kind of like, now you've got these, like, people who truly believe they're in the right. Like,
yeah, and that's always more terrifying.
It's way scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't get a lot of that in the Scream franchise. I think we've only had, like, one in the past who, like, believe she was active. I don't even know that Mrs. Loomis believed what she was doing was right. She was just so pissed off that she was...
Right.
Like, this would be the first time I think we ever had a Ghostface who was like, no, I'm doing this for the right reasons.
Right.
You know, I'm killing people that...
Because and when it comes to these conspiracy theories, especially a lot of the wackier ones, without naming them...
sure.
There's a sense of, like, when I see people that buy into them, I feel bad for them.
Absolutely.
I feel badly for them. I just, there's, like, I feel sad in a lot of ways. Because the other thing, too, is there's a part of me that can sympathize, identify with that. Because, like, we've all gone down rabbit holes in our life when we're trying to figure out stuff out and learn stuff and process stuff and make order of stuff. And, like, I would sympathize with that.
And honestly, you have to think about people from different demographics, age, are they, what kind of religion do they grow up under?
Right.
Like all sorts of different, there's all sorts of different things in play where you have to think, just because I wouldn't buy into this, just because I immediately think this is bullshit, doesn't mean that somebody else with a completely different worldview wouldn't buy into it.
Exactly.
So, but I still think it's a cool element regardless of why it exists or how it exists. I'm still fine with them having been the ones to engineer it a little bit. Because it makes sense. They not only do they want to avenge Richie, they want to ruin Sam, and eventually set her up clear Richie's name, right? And
Right.
make Sam out to be the one who was. So it still works. I might have liked the tweak of them actually thinking that was the case.
Right.
I think you could. It'd be a little more interesting, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
so Sam, what? Yeah,
Samantha. Yeah, I don't have much to add beyond that. I am kind of with her though. Are you with me on like it's next movie? It's time to shit or get off the pot with the ghost face where she's like cradling the thing. I know she drops it on the ground. Do you think that is them getting off the pot?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. I think we're probably done with
that was
Billy
her
Visions and stuff.
Yeah.
Because
I have it written down. Like I felt like remember when Thanos used to keep popping up at the end of Marvel movies, and you're like, "Hey man, are you gonna do something?"
Yeah, I think by like the fourth appearance, he's like, "I'm gonna do it myself," and I remember just groaning. In
I'm
the
like,
theater.
"Good." It's lazy.
It will be next year. What are we doing? Anyway,
so no,
I'm with you. I think that they're getting out the pot. And if we briefly talk at the end about what we think Scream 7 could be, I think I'll be able to.
Okay. Yeah, I want to hear
elaborate on that a little bit. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you talked about. I think she's interesting for a final girl because it's not just a single character. She is tied in with all of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I dig her. Stuff with her and Tara. You know what? This is what I want to talk about too, because I've actually seen this criticism thrown around, and I don't necessarily know if I agree with it. I think we've talked a little bit about the criticism I've seen, like that parts of this don't feel like Scream, or that Scream has lost its voice. And I think that's a misread of the whole franchise, which is I think sometimes people get blinded by the meta elements of it. And this is part of my problem with, I think, 4. A lot of times is I think it gets blinded by a lot of like, oh, they're talking about movies, and this means like this is about movies and all this stuff. That was always window dressing for what these movies were really about. And I think this movie with Samantha and Tara especially, and the 4 of them anyway, it gets to the heart of what it really is, what this franchise is about, which is not to sound like Fast and Furious, but it's about a family. It's about family in the way we interact with a family, in the way family and legacy interacts with people. And I think that's kind of the heart of the franchise, and that's why I think a lot of people wanted to see Sydney come back so badly, is because she does feel like a part of the Scream family. So I do think, and they even go out of their way to say like, oh, sometimes it's the family you create, not just the. Oh yeah,
that's outwardly stated.
That's outwardly stated.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's lost its voice. I think this part of the franchise has always been there. I think some people just get really into the whole, oh yeah, Scream is about movies thing, and it's part of my problem with the motive in 5 is that I think it's too much about movies.
I agree, and I agree. I also think that the other overarching theme of the Scream franchise is overcoming trauma.
Right.
I mean, that's Sydney's journey from 1 through 3 all the way.
Yep.
That's what we're seeing with the Sam character. We're seeing all 4 of the core 4 deal with overcoming their trauma from the events of the previous year in different ways. You see it in all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's always been a part of the franchise too. And I think that means more in a lot of ways to the identity of the franchise than just quoting movies or naming off obscure, naming off deep cuts. And to be fair to the writers and Radio Silence and everybody involved, I think that the movie makes a pretty clear statement about how it's going to deal with the meta movie stuff right out of the gate when Ghostface says, "Who gives a fuck about movies?"
Who gives a fuck about movies? Yeah.
Like that opening sequence is laden with movie talk.
And there's a great line where I can't remember if it's the beginning or it's like he made his whole personality his Letterboxd account.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like when these movies get mean like that.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, and there's stuff in the motive. That's the stuff in the motive I really like. Anyway, are you good with Sam?
Yes.
Tara. Let's talk about Tara real quick. Played by Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
Beefier role in this one. We mentioned that. What did you think of her in this?
I think Jenna Ortega is phenomenal. I think there's a reason why she's blowing up the way she is. I think it's very deserved.
Yeah, I think she's good too.
I think she's very good. I think her chemistry with Melissa Barrera is fantastic. I thought it was in the last movie too. I think her chemistry with Mason Gooding in this one's pretty good.
Ooh, I want to talk about this a little bit.
I did not expect this to be a thing.
You like this?
No, I do actually. I do, and the reason why is you didn't get a sense that these two were all that cozy by any means in the previous movie, But once again, trauma does weird stuff to people, man. And people that share a history of going through something together, that can do certain things to people too. And
Right.
I think that, I think you immediately see. I think it's a mixture. There's some romantic stuff, obviously, but I think there's also like, if you look at what happened in the previous movie, there's an element of like Chad's kind of a dork, and he's a good guy. Like you can tell he's a good dude at heart.
He's the jock with the heart of gold.
Yes,
the dorky
exactly.
jock
and he's
with
kind of a
heart.
nerd too,
Right.
like in his own way. He's not like
he
a movie
has
nerd,
to be.
but
yeah,
but he's kind of dweeby in a way,
Yep.
you know. But he's I read the whole romantic angle in as just them having bonded over what they went through, and also stemming from a protection aspect for him, because he seems very protective of all of them, her especially. It seems like for whatever reason, and that might be because he has feelings towards her, or maybe it's part of maybe the two of them are, connected in some way. But I liked it. I thought the chemistry was good. I mean, it worked for me.
Okay.
I was hoping that they would get their kiss by the end. I was like, all right, let's get this. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what happened there. Wound up happening.
Well, not sure it should have happened there.
Not sure it should have happened there. But
anyway, Tara. Yeah, that's.
But I didn't mind. I didn't mind any of that, and I really liked that her character arc was intertwined with Sam's in the idea of like she's this is her first year to go away to college and get away from sleepy Woodsboro. She doesn't want to deal with this shit. She wants to go to school and drink and have fun and meet
she's
boys.
like a teenager still, right? What is she? 18,
she's like
19?
19 years
Yeah.
old. She wants to like live a life. You know what I mean? Like and not only is like the past of what happened, like the Woodsboro stuff weighing on her, like Sam will not let the fuck go, and I love that the two of them. And I do like at the end that it actually like manifests itself in her actually like physically letting her go.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, that was good stuff. That's good writing.
That's clever stuff.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
That's good writing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's funny. It reminds me of it a little bit like it reminds me of the character in the Williamson movie that just came out this year, Sick.
Yeah.
Where like she wanted to get in college and yeah, she was irresponsible, but you're also like, what are these are kids? What are they supposed to do?
This is
like how are they supposed
this is normal
to
life
for
for
19-year-olds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did not love the Chad Tara thing.
So this might be a case of me bringing outside stuff to it, in that I read the interview with Chad. What's his
Mason Gooding.
Mason Gooding.
Yeah.
That said like he wasn't supposed to survive the first one.
True.
And a lot of this felt to be like, he wasn't supposed to survive this first one. Like we should do something with him. Like
sure.
let's
It
just
felt like
make
we need
him.
to give him an extra.
Yeah. I also thought that scene in the bedroom was weird.
Okay.
Weird placement in the movie.
Gotcha.
I thought it weakened his character a little bit, just because like it was like all of a sudden she was stone sober. What do they do? Throw it like I mean he's kind of taking advantage. Like she's very drunk.
Yeah.
We were just mad at this other guy, and we should have been for taking advantage of a drunk
Absolutely.
Tara. Like what did we do here? We throw her in the shower, give her a cup of coffee, and like
she's good to go.
She's stone sober. I thought it was a little bit sketchy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah,
it didn't bother me. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. I mean,
I think it was just because how close the scenes were together to me. Like I'm like
she's still in the same Halloween costume.
she's still, but that's but
I get it.
Yeah, that's more on the character film. A lot of my issues, I guess, with her character kind of stem from that. I didn't love that relationship.
Yeah.
By the end, I was okay with it, but like you said,
I think it makes for a really good classic like Scream tragic moment.
Right. Maybe
which is
could have been
undone.
But let me ask you this about Tara though, because I do have this. So we've committed now. They get very stabby at the end, Tara and Samantha.
Yeah,
we've thought
I don't blame them
the whole time like they're setting up the Samantha turn. You think they're setting up the Tara turn? She seemed pretty into it.
Yeah, when she gave Sam the go ahead to finish off Detective Bailey.
Yeah.
Maybe. I hope that's not it. I just would like to keep the sisters as sisters.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but could they do it? Sure. Would I buy into it? I guess it depends on how it would shake out.
I'm not saying like they're gonna go like they're gonna have like a psychotic break and start murdering innocent people.
Okay. You're saying more like maybe next time it'll be Sam trying to pull her back from being a little too
much. Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I don't want her to be like Ghostface.
We'll talk about 7 when we.
But Yeah, no, I liked Tara will be the first person I mention in a long list of people as we go through, though that miraculously seems to be unfazed by being stabbed in the back and then in the stomach, like not long after, and then at the end is just
where are these people's organs?
I know. Having a casual conversation with her sister on the steps of the theater, nothing that I could see,
Yeah.
No method of cauterizing the wound or of tourniqueting the wounds. Just kind of sitting there bleeding.
Hanging out.
Kind of amazing stuff. Truly.
Anything more to say on Tara?
No, I like Tara.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good performance. Good character. All right, we talked about Chad a little bit. Let's keep going with Chad.
Yeah, Chad. I like him.
Mason Gooding Jr. is his name.
I think so.
Yeah,
or just Mason Gooding. I don't know. Is he a junior?
Mason Gooding.
No, he wouldn't be a junior.
I always think of
I don't know. Yeah, I like him. I liked him in the last movie. I felt like Chad was and I think the filmmakers certainly felt the same.
He's just Mason Gooding.
Okay. I think the filmmakers certainly felt the same because they wound up keeping him alive despite the initial plan not being. I think there's a charisma to him in that first movie. I liked the performance. He doesn't have a ton to do in the first movie, but I liked him quite a bit, and I was happy to see him come back. Happy to see him have more to do in this one. He might have one of the great rare fuck Ghostface up sequences in this movie. He is lighting Ghostface up.
Yeah.
I think he punches him 6 times. He's chucking shit at his head. It's great. That was a cool sequence. And it ends with probably my favorite moment of the entire movie, which is funny because I did not want Chad to die. Didn't actively want him to die, like you said. I just thought after that scene that it would have made a lot more sense, both from a purely realistic perspective and also from a storytelling perspective. It would have made sense for him to have died because of what happens to him.
Yeah.
But my favorite bit in the entire movie is straight up he's going to smash Ghostface with a gumball machine or something. Another Ghostface comes out. It's the first time we see 2 Ghostfaces on screen at the same time. And it's effective as shit.
It's awesome. That moment is awesome.
Sweet. Because they both start circling him like lions, about ready to. It's so sweet. And then they stab the shit out of him, a lot. And I even like his bit where he tells him to run as he's oh, run, And then they throw him down and they both do the knife wipe at the same time, and it's the coolest shit. I got chills.
Yeah.
In the theater, this is fucking awesome. I'm sorry, Chad, I liked you, but this is good stuff.
You were a worthy sacrifice for this moment.
Because this is good stuff. So I liked all that, and look, I'm happy he survived. I think it's insanity, really, really crazy that he lived.
So I want to say something.
This is an easy fix too. Don't have him get stabbed 70 times.
So I checked out of anything about 3 or 4 weeks before. I stopped watching trailers.
Yeah.
But I did see a blurb that said this is the goriest Scream movie yet, and I think it probably is.
I think it probably is. It's still not. It never feels like
Halloween Kills.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so my expectations were are they going Halloween Kills? And they didn't. But I was okay, it is gory.
There were some gnarly bits. Yeah.
I do think that almost works in this movie to its disadvantage, and I think that scene there is because it's so brutal and so over the top in some ways. They're just stabbing him all over.
Yeah.
It works to its disadvantage because you're oh, he has to be dead. It takes away the believability that he could survive this. That's the thing is I'm not rooting for him to survive because the kill is so sweet.
It's so good.
I was just you got to die from that or else what else are you going to die from?
Yeah, that's as good as it gets. If you're going to go out in a Scream movie, that is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's
you're
watching a wrestling match and someone's kicking out of 5 finishers. And
it's a New Japan match.
What are we where are we kicking out of
this? Go home.
At some point you have to get a pinfall. You got to let these two get a pinfall. It's a handicap match at that.
It was. That moment's really great.
Yeah.
And like I said, God, I really didn't want Chad to die, but that him surviving doesn't undercut the moment itself because the moment's so sweet. But it does kind of. It left a weird taste in my mouth that he survived, and I think it's also it's not just him surviving. We're about to talk about Mindy here too.
Yep.
I don't think we needed 7 returning characters or 6 returning characters to survive. I think it's silliness.
Right.
We needed to lose somebody. I didn't even want them to necessarily kill Gale. We just lost Dewey. We don't know if Nev Campbell will ever be back in this series. So killing Gale wasn't even necessary. I would have been fine with it, but it wasn't even. But they had to do something. I feel like.
Yeah.
I felt like Kirby felt too safe going into it because they're not just going to bring back the fan favorite character just to kill her off immediately. She felt safe to me. Gail felt safe to me because I didn't think they were going to off Courtney Cox when she's the only guaranteed original actor you have to come back. Arquette, his character's gone. Nev, we don't know. So I felt like those two were immediately safe, like plot armor. Like there was no, or film, I don't know, production armor. I don't know what you would call it. So it had to be one of the
contract armor.
Contract armor.
Yeah.
So I felt like and I felt like Sam was safe. So it had to be Tara or the twins, and like the twins seemed like at least one of them would have made sense to, and I feel like there was ample opportunity to do that for either one.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. The only you mentioned it. I do like him quite a bit as an actor, though. I think he's a very charismatic.
Yeah.
He's like his dad in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That way, he's very charismatic.
Yep.
Screen presence.
I'm excited to see him come back in the next one.
Me too.
Obviously.
Yep.
But if he takes his shirt off in the next one, which seems to be a recurring theme, I think this character's done.
Did he have his shirt off?
Maybe not in the 5th one, but they seem to want to show off the guns.
They like to, they did it with the neighbor too.
They did.
He was ironing, drinking a beer. With
that guy's sweet. That's my favorite character in the whole movie. He's the best.
Yeah. So this is,
he's me in a Scream movie, basically, and not as good looking or as cut or whatever. But like that would be my role in a Scream movie.
That fits with the Scream ethos, though. I mean, the Scream, which is like we're not gonna give you the naked ladies running around. You get that in the old Friday the 13th. We're gonna give you shirtless men running.
Absolutely. Yeah, a little something for
yeah.
For everybody else. So.
He does, and we should mention. Yeah, I think we did. You like the term core 4? It was a little cheesy in the movie, but it's cute. It's cute. It's fun, and it treats them like a family, and it's good to brand. Stuff like this you can sell.
The characters acknowledge how corny it is, which makes it cool.
Right.
Like if they didn't acknowledge it, it wouldn't be as cool.
You ready to move on to Mindy?
Yeah, Mindy.
Jasmine Savoy Brown.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Yellow Jackets. I did not know. I saw her in Yellow Jackets and said, "Oh, it's Mindy from Scream."
Yeah, that's right.
What are your thoughts on her in this film? She gets she's about the same. A little bit more.
Okay,
yeah.
Mindy for me is the weakest of the core 4 in this movie in terms of. She has some fun stuff to do in some really great sequences. She's a standout in the ladder sequence, obviously, and on the subway sequence, which is one of my favorite bits in the movie. But in terms of like development and having any sort of arc, she really doesn't. And the closest thing to an arc is her not correctly guessing who the killers are. And that is played for like laughs at the end.
So, and I think there's a thing with her character too that's part of her charm, which is that she's kind of what's the word? Not disaffected, but kind of distant a lot of the time.
Yeah, she's like
with her girlfriend. Too, like when they're sitting there, you can tell she's being kind of snarky and distant with her girlfriend.
She's very aloof.
Very aloof
when it comes to everything that's going on.
But then it doesn't hit as hard in the middle when her girlfriend dies for me because it's not that big emotional moment for her because like
I think they wanted it to be.
Yeah, that's the thing, but like you don't really get much like earnestness with her, like serious with her and her girlfriend. You don't get like I never really got a scene. I might have to go back and rewatch it, but I never really got a scene where I'm like, oh, these two really like each other.
Like I felt bad that the girl died.
Yeah, I didn't want her to die,
but like I never like
it wasn't a gut punch or anything.
Tear me up,
right?
And then she shows up. I like Jasmine Savoy Brown. I like the character, but like then I liked her bit with Kirby was fun too. Their little back and forth was a lot of fun.
Good, yeah.
But like then she shows up at the end and she's been like stabbed in the gut and she's just bandaged and she comes back and she's making jokes. And I'm like, your girlfriend just got murdered.
Yep.
Your brother, everybody thinks is dead at this point because I think it's before he gets wheeled out. Like, and you're goofing around. It just felt weird to me. Like it feels.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It feels like the writers feel like she needs to be Randy at all times, goofy and movie person, and they haven't allowed her to.
I think this is part of the issue with having 4 main characters like this is someone's going to get the short shaft, and I think she got it. I think of the 4, she was, like you said, the weakest. She's the one that doesn't feel like she has much of an arc in this movie.
I agree.
I don't think there's enough time spent with her, but it's also like, how much time do you have? Like,
it's a long movie.
Yeah, and honestly, you kind of have to spend more time with Tara and Chad because they have that relationship.
If you want to develop that, you're going to have to spend time with them, right?
Yep.
And Sam is the lead, so
I do think she also benefits, like you said, from Ghost. He's not a very lucky stabber in this movie.
No.
I think She, though, I think is involved in the best actually sequence in the movie, in my opinion.
The subway stuff.
I think. Would you say that is your favorite sequence in the movie? I think that's mine. There's a part of me though that likes that. I like the opening quite a bit in this too.
The opening is like phenomenal. God, I don't know. I have to rewatch it because there's like multiple contenders. The bodega sequence rules. The only drawback to the bodega sequence is we saw like most of it in the trailers.
Right.
The opening sequence is amazing. I think the apartment attack ladder sequence is great with them crawling across the ladder.
Yes.
I think that's great. I think that all the stuff in the shrine leading up to Chad getting double teamed is great. I think there's a lot of good stuff in regards to like set pieces.
She's another one too. Her character is another one where I need to I kind of need a final judgment on some of her stuff on the rewatch because I really want to watch the scene where she talks about the franchises and all that and stuff. Again, that's not so much character, that's plot, but I want to see how that works now that I know where this movie went at the end.
Exactly. I like Mindy. I just, for me, if you're, out of the four, I feel like she had not necessarily the least to do, but just didn't have as much meaty stuff to do. And I wish I wanted to see a little bit more change in that character. And by the end of it, I feel like nothing's changed. We're just kind of, quippy still.
All right. Anything else to say about the core four?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I like them all.
Let's talk then. So I do want to say, but last thing, I texted you this yesterday before we move on because it ties into the core four and these legacy characters. This is the oldest I've ever felt watching a movie.
Yeah.
I felt
mentioned that.
So old in the theater.
Yeah.
We're there. It's opening night, Thursday night. A lot of younger people around us. Younger people on the screen. It's because like now all the legacy characters are like. Nev wants more money. Dewey's dead. Like Gail's like in it every once in a while, and I'm like, where are my people?
What's happened?
I just have my anchor is crazy Dermot Mulrooney.
Yeah, he's the closest that you feel to any one character.
Yes. So I'm just like I'm sitting here. I'm like, God, I feel old. And like the other thing too is like when I watch college basketball now, and I see these kids that are like they're born in like 2005.
It's crazy.
As freshmen, I'm just like, oh, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
and they all look like elementary schoolers.
It's insanity. It's insanity. Well, then they make it like they make a gag between Gail, who we're about to talk about, and Kirby, where Kirby's like, I'm 30, and she says it like she's like, this like, I don't know, like she's like, I'm like, you're still a baby. Gail's right, you're still a baby. Anyway,
where do you want to start, Kirby or Gail?
Let's do Gail real quick. Okay. Let's talk about Gail.
All right, Gail. She's back.
She's back, and that's about all I have to say. I like Courtney Cox. I like the performance. I actually like where they took Gail. I like the idea that she did write the book. It's the painful choice.
Yep.
But it's the Gail choice. Absolutely. It's a bummer, but you should feel like it's a bummer. I have no issue with the fact that she's shacking up with another guy. Her and Dewey were separated for like years before he got killed.
I also think it's interesting. Like
he still got his picture.
The dude she's with is like not like Dewey.
The anti-Dewey.
Yes,
he's like this jacked. Like
I kind of thought that was an interesting character.
Very interesting.
Moment. Yeah.
He means nothing in the overall of anything.
And she treats him as such.
He's like man meat basically.
Yep.
Yeah. He's like
But like you said, I think that works for her.
It works for I was cool with it. I mean, it's sad and it's a bummer, and you want more from her. But after the shit she's been through, she probably regressed a little bit.
Yeah. What's the point of getting close to some of the all these people when they're just gonna die?
I might as well accept who I've always been because life sucks and yada yada. I love seeing her get dodged the first punch and then get punched by Tara.
That was a really good one.
Really clever, fun stuff. I think it was good for all three of those characters. I will say this though, her chase sequence is phenomenal. Gail finally gets a phone call.
Yep,
which I thought was a great phone, probably the best phone call in the
sequels,
movie.
In this
movie for sure. And one of the better one-on-one chase sequences, I thought, really good stuff.
Yeah,
loved all that. Should Gail have died? Probably. Both from a realistic standpoint and from a
we need to
probably. Am I fine with her living? Yes. Do I need her to be back in another one? Not really. I like Gail.
Yeah. I think she fits better than some of the people that we would have potentially brought back.
She,
just because of her like where she would live and her occupation.
She fits more naturally into this than Sydney would have.
Yep.
But I also think that Gail's role in this, or lack thereof, just kind of for me, brings home my initial thoughts that we did not need Sydney in this movie.
Yeah.
So where would that character have fit in with what's going on here? So just because I just feel like Gail just kind of feels like she's here because we need one of the OG characters.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, it makes sense for her character to be there, but nothing she does, like, at any point in the movie feels like necessary to forward any of the momentum of anything.
Right.
Like, basically, she, through magic journalism powers, she finds a key to the shrine. It's not really, it's like hand-waved, right? And then she has a cool fight sequence. That's about it.
It feels like it does feel like the studio or whoever, yeah, like you said, it said like, well, we're not getting Nev back. We need something to bring in the older crew like us. But like, I don't know. Do you think, I don't want to bash Courtney Cox's box office appeal, but do you think it made any difference in this?
I mean,
business-wise? Because we have mentioned.
I think it probably brought in some of the olds like us.
Right.
Like, because they're like, oh, well,
Courtney Cox.
Yeah. Some of the people who like the Scream franchise maybe, but are like a little more
maybe I'm
casual
being a little
in their
harsh
viewing.
on her. Yeah.
It probably brought in some of the audience that were fans of the older movies,
right?
Perhaps. But was it bringing in Jenna Ortega's audience? Probably not.
No. And honestly, I think a lot of people who saw the first movie would. I guess I'm speaking. That feels like something I'm speaking for everyone
sure.
now. But we would have went back because we liked the last one. We liked the way it treated and introduced us to this new crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's it. Maybe it was just to give old people like me, like
someone to hold on
guide.
To. Yes. Yes. A tether in dark waters.
Too many youths. What was I gonna say about Gail? You talked about kind of the regression of her character.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's weird that they haven't killed her in some ways because she's been in every movie, right?
Yeah.
And she's like of the original.
She's now the only person to be in every Scream film.
And she's the most expendable character to me. Yeah. like because she is kind of harsh and like you don't always like her. You haven't since the beginning. So like she's this weird. She's a reporter. She's an outside reporter who doesn't have any real connection to these people beyond what they went through. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And even the attack on her life doesn't necessarily feel like it almost feels like it's meant as a distraction more than anything else, like in this.
And I think the fact that this is her first phone call and she's been in every movie.
Crazy.
It shows how expendable she is and how like distant she is from the rest of the
nuts. Yeah, technically she got a phone call in 2, but Randy picks it up.
Oh, yep.
But she never actually gets to talk with Ghostface.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the bit, like, her reaction to hearing the voice was super cool. It was almost like, oh shit, like I'm actually talking.
I liked that too. Thank you.
She has a moment where she actually genuinely seems scared, and like Gail's not a scared character. She's been through this shit so many times. But like hearing the voice kind of freaked her out almost.
Because I was taken aback by that because I thought Gail was gonna like spit back, like fire back at him.
She was like,
I liked that moment actually just because it took me by surprise.
Because there's almost a moment of I think her going, uh-oh. Like I've never really been the target before.
Yeah.
This is probably not good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Gail?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Let's talk about the other big returning character. Kirby. Yeah, not the Nintendo character.
Yeah, that'd be sweet though.
Hayden Panettiere, who has not been in anything in a while. It's since Nashville, the TV show Nashville.
Yep.
So she is returning from 4. I want to state off the top, I am no fan of 4, but Kirby I like.
Kirby was standout.
Kirby is my favorite part of 4.
Kirby and crazy ass Emma Roberts jumping through shit. Those two are
So I was happy if we're bringing somebody back from 4. Kirby is who I want.
Sure.
Not what's her name?
Deputy Judy.
Which, all right. Here's my other thing that I want to lay out. I do not think Radio Silence the guys. I prefer to call them that because I don't like their last names are too hard for me to pronounce.
Yeah.
I do not think they are fans of Scream. I think if you set them down right now, off the record, and ask them their thoughts on Scream 4,
it's not very good.
They would say, I don't like that movie. Yeah. So this is where I think I'm at with Kirby in this movie is I don't necessarily think they're huge fans of 4, and I think they're doing this reminds me of Sam Raimi with Venom, where I don't think he has any affinity for that character, and he's just doing the best he can with what he thinks the fans will want from them.
A little bit.
It felt weird. She felt shoehorned in.
Yeah.
She did not feel like the character. There are moments, like you said, where they sat down.
There are moments. There's a feistiness there, which is great.
Can I ask you a question? You're fresher in 4.
Sure.
Was there a lot of back and forth between Kirby and Gale in 4?
There's like none.
Where did this come from in this movie? This was the most distracting, like, because they have like a repartee, like a back and forth, like where they're like sniping at each other. Where did this
don't
come
know.
from?
My only thought is, I guess Gale lived in Woodsboro for a while.
Yeah.
Probably after 4, even. And I guess Kirby would still be there for a little while. So maybe they like met each other in the interim.
And
but they seemed like they'd been down the road.
There's some back and forth, maybe because she's an FBI agent and she's a journalist, so maybe there's some crossing of the path there.
Maybe. I think Gale worked on a book about the events of 4. Maybe Kirby was involved and she talked. I don't know.
Yeah, so that stuff that all would happen in the interim, and I get that, but like I was distracted the whole time. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
To me, that repartee stuff felt like trying to remind the audience who maybe has not ever seen Scream 4 or has seen it way back when it came out that like, oh, that's right, she's from another movie. Like she's important because she's coming back.
Well, it did the opposite. It made me go, am I misremembering that movie? Like, what the hell are they doing?
No, there's really not a lot of interaction between the two of them.
What did you think of Kirby, though?
No, I mean, I like Hayden Panettiere. I like Kirby. I think she feels like Kirby in the sense that she's got some wit and some sass about her. You get some of the movie stuff that's great. It doesn't feel disingenuine to me. I just never bought Kirby as being the kind of character who would be like a hard-nosed FBI agent. It just didn't. It's like they had a role for an FBI agent in this movie that would be a red herring. And they were like, well, I guess we could make Kirby the FBI agent. And then they figure out a way to make, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm glad for the Kirby fan. Like, I like Kirby too, but like I'm glad for the diehards who were like, bring Kirby back, like 'cause she's back, and I hope you enjoyed her in this. And I did not enjoy her, but does she feel necessary to any of what's going on? No, not even like a little bit.
She feels like a distraction a lot of the time, especially as we get into the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, she's there. She gets to kill a Ghostface, who already should have been dead from the previous wound they received. A recurring theme. She gets to do that, which is cool. She's got a cool jacket. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about Kirby. If they bring her back again, I hope that it feels a little more natural.
I think, I'm in the same boat, which is, it's one of those things, too, where I think at the end of the day, I'm happy they brought her back just because I like when franchises acknowledge the existence.
It feels like the Fast and the Furious. This is the second time. This is the first time I'm comparing it. We've both done this now. This feels like the Fast and the Furious bringing back like Tyrese.
Yeah, from Too Fast. Yeah, and it is kind of the thing with continuity is I don't need to tie up every loose end from all the other movies. I just like that they acknowledge it's an X-Men thing. It's the X-Men fan of me.
Absolutely.
Like, you cannot tie up 60 years of X-Men continuity, but I'm always cool when they throw in a little nod for the Generation X and Onslaught fans.
Yeah, warts and all, baby, warts and all.
Yeah.
I think this movie does that in a few ways. We get a wonderful mention by Kirby, funny enough, of our tribal chief, Roman Bridger.
Yes,
she even says, "Only Ghostface to do it solo." He's like he was a go-getter or something like that. Right.
That was a good moment for us Roman fans. Speaking
you.
of Roman, Roman from Fast and Furious.
yes, it all comes back around. So they do a good job of mentioning some of that stuff. They mention like everybody's least favorite Ghostface multiple times.
Yeah,
in the movie.
Who's that?
Culkin.
Oh yeah.
They mention him multiple times. Because Kirby's involved.
Yeah.
One more thing. There's a really good Kirby bit that I enjoyed quite a bit actually. When they're in the shrine. She's like not in the background, but she's off to like the peripheral, and she's like standing there like staring at Emma Roberts.
Her flannel?
Plaid.
Yeah, plaid.
Yeah, and I liked that because it's crazy to me. Like she would have woke up from the hospital, like from her like death.
Yeah,
essentially, and then like been told like, by the way, your best friend died and also was behind all
the
of
killings.
This.
Yeah,
that would suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a bummer. Anyway.
All right, cool. Anything else on Kirby?
Nah,
all right,
good.
so there are 2 characters here that I want to talk about briefly, probably, because they are not in the movie.
Yes.
But they are in the background, at least.
Yes.
First one I think we need to talk about is Sydney.
Yeah, briefly. Yeah.
They do mention her. They give, and honestly, I'm totally fine with
perfectly fine.
lines like
no
this.
issue.
I laugh, and I go, Gojo would sit next to me, and he goes, oh, check.
I did the same thing with Alex. I turned to Alex and I went,
check mark.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, because especially for people who follow stuff, behind the scenes stuff closely, it's funny. It's a funny moment. I don't know if necessarily your average moviegoer, I mean, they may have heard of this story of the pay dispute and everything, but I think they're just going like, okay, they wrote Sydney out real quick, and I'm fine with it.
I have no issue with it. I think lingering on it more than necessary would have been more distracting.
Me too.
It's believable. It's like
it's good
Sydney
enough.
ain't coming to New York.
Yep. Yes.
She doesn't know any of you people. She barely likes me.
Oh my god, another Fast and Furious thing. This becomes the Brian O'Connor problem in the later Fast and the Furious movies. Is like, you've got a wife and kid now. What are you doing, bro? Like,
is this the Fast and the Furious of the Scream franchise?
I think this
might be.
We've become. Honestly, I think there are similarities.
We get a Cole Hauser level performance at the end too.
So it is like, you know what? I said this at the beginning. I think I said this before all of the stuff with Nev Campbell and the dispute. I think I said it in our Scream 5 episode. I didn't want to see Sydney back.
No, I'm good.
I'm good with her if whenever they decide to wrap up the story or maybe this franchise, like they do a final chapter or whatever. Yeah, I mean, she can appear if it makes sense. It doesn't make any sense for her.
But if she doesn't ever come back, like.
It was straining in the last couple. Yeah. I bought it more in 5 than I did in 4, and I think that's part of why I buy 5.
I bought it in 5 because her initial reaction is, I'm not coming there.
Yep.
And that she only comes because Dewey gets killed, and she's pretty pissed.
Yep.
So the only way you can get her back at this point is if you bring Dempsey back and have Dempsey get killed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or have him get hurt or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, Gail's no, I don't think so at this point. Anyway, I didn't miss Sydney in this movie.
No, I'm good with it.
Yep.
We're good. Which is a testament to how well they've. The fact that we just said we don't feel either of the legacy characters that actually physically came back were really all that necessary in the movie, even if we were fine with them being present and we enjoyed aspects, and that we're not missing Sydney, tells me that the writers have done a pretty good job of developing the 4 people that. You know.
Yeah, and the other thing is I don't necessarily want to see, like, Dewey. I understand why they killed off in the last movie. And I think it works, and I think you had to raise those stakes. And like you said, it brings Sydney back. I don't need to see these characters die on screen. No. Like, I'm fine. Actually,
there's a weird obsession with that for some reason.
It's my fear of if Stallone comes back to the Rocky franchise, because I know how he is. He's going to want to have his Mickey moment. He's going to want to die on screen.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Rocky die on screen.
No.
At most, I want to see like Creed visit his gravestone.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, like that's fine because it would make sense. But Stallone's gonna want to take up half the movie with like dying on screen. Like, I don't want to see that.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'm good.
So there, we found another franchise to compare this to. Anything else to say about Sydney?
No, we can talk about Dewey. Very briefly.
Yep.
There's a picture of him.
I liked that moment. That was because it's back by your gun, right?
Yep, and it's the same one that he had up in his trailer, which is fun.
Yep.
And we get the Dewey theme.
We do.
I started softly humming it in Alex's ear next to me. I really love that they played the Marco Beltrami Broken Arrow music. It's pretty excited about that. But no, Dewey's a presence in the sense that, like, you know, when Gail does kind of get a conscience again, it's because Dewey's brought up.
Yep.
You know, and that tells you why she backslid. I mean, even when she wasn't with Dewey and they were, you know, hundreds of miles apart or whatever, like, he was there, you know, probably a little angel on her shoulder saying, like, come off it a little bit, Gail, you know. So I thought that was kind of nice. So I like to hear that. I like to think that Gail heard the Broken Arrow theme in her head in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to put that because Dewey and Sydney, I think, are handled very well in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We don't dwell on either of them, but they get their moments. And
yes.
I think that's that's good enough for people like us who have been. That's all I want to do is I want to see the characters treated with respect if they're not going to be there.
I agree,
and I think they were. Yeah, they didn't just murder Sydney off screen. Because isn't there?
Can you imagine?
What is the one I could have?
Triple X. There's a franchise where you murder your main character.
So there was a pay dispute between Vin and because Vin was getting too big for his britches at the time.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do Triple X too. So yeah, they filmed an entire side movie
for the DVD
where they blow up his character for the DVD, and then the X, the Triple X tattoo, flies at the screen
on a piece of on a fleshy patch. Can you imagine if they opened this film with
if they did that to Sydney?
It said Prescott on the mailbox or something.
Yeah,
and you hear a phone ring and the house just blows up. Sydney and her entire family were killed.
So I'm glad they didn't Triple X her and they just moved on. All right. Now I think, 'cause honestly, as we've gone through this, we've been pretty positive, I think.
Yeah.
For the most part. I think now is where we might get into the negatives.
Yeah, I think so.
We got to talk about the ghost faces, plural.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start with one Mr. Dermot. Detective Bailey. Detective George Bailey.
Detective Bailey.
Dermot Mulroney.
My goodness. He's making choices in this film.
Is this the most over-the-top performance?
Yeah.
All the way through. That's the thing.
The weird thing is he's weird all the way through the movie. Especially once his daughter fake dies. It's a weird performance at that point.
He becomes vigilante, B action movie vigilante guy.
Vengeful, but you're always man, Dermot's making choices here.
That's the thing is
I can't take him seriously.
I can almost buy him becoming Liam Neeson Taken, but not Dermot Mulroney. I can't buy him.
I know.
I can buy the character maybe.
Sure.
Becoming that, but it's his performance. It's weird.
It's a strange performance.
Yeah.
And maybe that was Dermot's choice. I want to make this guy kind of off from the get-go because I want you to be...
It's a choice, yes.
It's a choice. But he gets... once the reveal comes, boy, oh boy, is he.
And that's the thing is
he's something else.
When I think of over-the-top performances in these movies, it's always when the reveal comes.
His is kind of over the top all the way through.
All the way through for me. I laughed out loud a couple of times at his delivery because it's so weird.
It's bizarre.
Because
I kind of love it.
I'm gonna go back and watch this, and
you're gonna
love his performance.
Yeah.
It just took me by surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna defend it as good either.
No.
I'm just gonna. You guys, you have a saying a lot of time understood the assignment. He understood the assignment. I don't know if he understood the assignment.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think he understood it.
Yeah.
I just think his interpretation of the assignment may have been different. He was asked an essay question. And he went off on an interesting tangent with it. He wasn't wrong, necessarily. It just wasn't what was expected of him. Yeah.
So talk about his motive here, because I know you have some stuff to say about the motive in general.
Here's how I'm going to do this.
Because I'm going to need you to, honestly.
Well, okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break down the motive and everything that Dermot does behind the scenes, and then we're just going to tie in the kid ghost faces with this, okay? At this point,
okay.
So not a lot to say about the kid.
So
ghost
Quinn,
faces, right?
who is the roommate, the sex positive girl.
Yes.
So what not the slut. You can't say that.
No. Sex positive.
And Ethan.
Yes, one of them is the roommate of Sam and Tara.
And Ethan is the dude.
Is the roommate of Chad.
Who's roommate of Chad.
So they've inserted themselves into their lives, probably both to kind of get intel and also eventually do some stabbing.
I will say, since we won't dive too much into them, I thought Quinn was a cooler character than Ethan. Ethan kind of floats in the background a lot of the time.
I think it works for him.
I kind of liked Quinn. Was kind of almost a bummer for me because I kind of liked Quinn.
Yeah, she was fun.
Yep,
she was fun. She reminded me of Tatum.
Yes, yeah, good call. Yeah,
like a modern Tatum.
I always kind of liked that slasher archetype character anyway.
Kind of badass chick isn't afraid to speak her mind and isn't afraid to talk about sex and isn't afraid to. I always liked that character. Yeah, sex positive. Yeah.
Yes.
Ethan, he's got some funny moments. I like some of his stuff. I got a tissue. If you, some of that stuff is fun.
Right.
But he's he's pretty thinly drawn. The performance is fine.
It feels like there's a scene or two missing from his.
I think so.
Stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, and I like how he gets ragged on for being the killer by like everybody multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
He just keeps going, I was in economics or whatever he said. I was in econ.
Yep.
It's funny to me because then he winds up being a killer. And I think he has a funny line though that I really like the delivery after post reveal where he's like, Chad figured it out right away. he's like idiots. And he says something about like, because he's kind of incel-y, right? That's kind of part of his thing.
Yeah.
Because
this is Dermot's his fathering style.
Yes.
Seems to be raising a very certain type.
Yeah. Yeah. He says, his daughter is not
right,
but his sons seem to be.
That's the most interesting stuff with the family aspect of this movie is when you start to dig into Dermot's
the dynamics, perhaps.
Okay,
so here we go. All right, I'm finally gonna break here. Let's break this down.
Okay,
bit by bit from genesis of Dermot's plot to, and I want if anything doesn't sound right from how it was described in the film to you, I want you to call me out on it, and we need to suss this out. Are you ready?
Okay.
Dermot has 3 kids. One of them is Richie from 5. Richie really likes the stab movies. Enough to eventually go off and start killing people. Dermot begrudgingly acknowledges and endorses his son's love the stab movies, up to and including.
You said sons, right?
His son, Richie's.
So Richie,
at least Richie's.
Okay.
He indulges this obsession by using his police contacts to gather an insane amount of evidence from the murders, to bring to Richie as like, look, I got you so-and-so's robe, or look, I got you this thing. So he's indulging Richie's love of it, like a doting father. Richie, we even like to make fan films. I think we see them screening. Those were Richie's fan films, right? At the end.
Yes.
His stabby fan films. I like all of that.
Me too, yeah.
You and I both had the exact same feeling on this, which is not uncommon for us, that it actually makes Richie and and 5 as a movie more interesting. Getting some of this background, I
think it makes it stronger. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of where this is where I like the motive. I like that and honestly, this is kind of why what I was talking about with the movie. It pulls back from a lot of that meta stuff and it makes it more personal.
Yes.
And I think that stuff, honestly, works. And I think the part where you're seeing Richie's like fan-made films in the background is really kind of touching to me.
There's a sadness to it.
There is a sadness to that, and it's also. There's a sadness to, and this is why I wish his performance was maybe a little bit better. Dermot Mulroney,
I wish it was a little more grounded and not as
a dad who cannot. He's a cop. He's like a hardened cop. Like he is the type of guy that cannot connect with someone like a big time movie nerd who just loves this sort of stuff. Like there is a kind of
the closest way he can find a connection with him is to like get evidence and go.
Yeah.
And bond over the evidence, essentially.
There's a sadness to that, and I really, really like that stuff. And like you said, that adds what I thought was missing from 5, which is like a real human element to that motive, where I thought 5 kind of got lost in the toxic fandom stuff. And for me, it's just the Captain America.
I'm knocking stuff over.
It fell over behind you. But it gets lost in the weeds, I think, in a lot of that toxic fandom stuff, and that it never really, like part 1 does, ties it to the real world. Yeah. Well, this actually does that in a way, and so that's why I really dig it.
Agreed. 100%. 100%. So, Richie decides to go on his killing spree from 5. Richie is killed in insanely brutal fashion by Sam at the end of that movie. Gail writes a book. And the book coming out is what finally sets off Richie's dad and siblings to go, you know what, we're going to get this son of a bitch, this asshole that killed. They know fully well Richie's guilty. They know this, but he basically says, like, it doesn't matter, you messed with my family. And he mentions having seen the crime scene photo and that setting him off. Like, once he saw how brutalized Richie was, he was like,
yep.
I kind of like that too.
Yep.
I kind of like, because, like or not, like Sam went overboard on that. Something like she could have killed him after like 3 stabs,
right? And
she went to town. I don't know if you remember. She stabs the dude like 20 times, then cuts his throat, then shoots him 3 times.
Right.
It's a lot. I don't blame her, but Anyway, so here's where we start losing me.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Richie's Detective Bailey uproots his other 2 kids, moves to New York and becomes a detective. They both start going to college, one of them under a completely false identity, the son, Ethan. They maintain the father-daughter thing for some reason between There's no cover for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my other little screenwriting change. I don't know why they ever even like tied those two together as father and daughter. It served no purpose, really.
Do you think? Okay, so do you think are you saying like you don't know why they tied them together from the beginning, and you were okay? You would have been okay if it would have been a reveal towards the end.
Yes.
Like he would have. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that'd be better. I think it would wipe away some of the issues I have with the whole like switching out bodies thing, because like.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't his coworkers know what his daughter looked like? Like, wouldn't they have seen a picture of her at some point? Or like, also, the daughter thing felt like it was I don't know. Anyway, so he gets them in there. He starts working at the NYPD. No one has vetted this guy. Not only has no one vetted this, somehow he's so skilled at his work that he's like faked who he is completely.
Yeah.
Despite a year earlier, his son having committed a spree killing that was so big in the news that it had a book written about it. And you mean to tell me that no one involved, not Sam, not Tara, not Gail, not Kirby, the FBI agent, nobody who by the way, Kirby, who is straight up said, like, I take an interest in Ghostface killings. No one involved has seen a picture, an interview. No one involved knows anything about Richie's family after he was. Makes no sense. Tim.
Yeah,
I can't swallow it. I can't do it.
The
only reason Mrs. Loomis works is because Sidney never sees her throughout the whole movie until the reveal, and they mention offhandedly that like she had a bunch of work done and stuff.
Yes,
and that's enough for me.
And we should mention too, this very obviously apes and mirrors Scream 2, and
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm actually fine with that. Fits in the franchise. That didn't bother me at all.
Yeah. And I think they're going to do it with Scream 7, with Scream 3.
Okay.
So I can't buy it, Tim.
And then we need to talk about. You kind of mentioned it. Okay, explain to me.
Okay, and then,
explain to me what he does with his daughter's body.
The killings start. Okay, and then he goes to the apartment, pretends to kill his daughter, applies some sort of neck prosthetic to make it look like her throat's been cut, tosses her body in the living room, chases a bunch of people around, girl falls off the ladder, everybody scatters. Him and his daughter, who is not dead, then go back out to the car and get a body, a fresh body, who must look enough like her. They put the body in the apartment. She takes off to go stab at Gail. And then he goes back down and he's swaps back into cop attire and shows up as the first responding officer. It's very strange.
I told you there are two scenes now that I want to see in movies. One is the Tom Jane Punisher. I want to see him like parking the car to form the skull logo that lights on fire when he drags
How
John.
long it took him?
Like he's like sitting there and he's like, "Oh fuck, that's not right." He's like, "Gotta move this one."
It's gonna be so sweet when it's done. He takes a lunch break halfway through.
It's gonna be rocking. He's like smoking. He's like, "Got it." But now I need to see. You can do all this, but you got to show me the work. You got to show the work. I got to see the deleted scene of what you just described occurring.
It'd be hilarious.
I have to see all of the work because you know what? You want me to buy it? You got to show me. It's so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous
that I have to buy it.
It's ridiculous.
Now you mentioned this, I think maybe before we were recording, and I'm going to see if you want to do it. Do you have theories? Do you have guesses as to which Ghostface is doing?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's pretty easy to say that Dermot is the killer of. We should mention Jason, who is technically the fourth Ghostface in this movie.
Oh right, yeah.
Tony Ravioli.
Yes,
that opening is incredible.
We're gonna get to him in a second. Yep.
Anyway,
no, we're good.
He kills Jason and Jason's partner. I think the only reason why I say that is he's the one It would have to be him saying who gives an F about movies, right? Like he would be the one that would say that. So I think that's him. And then who's the next? The bodega people. I don't know the bodega.
That could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
I'd have to go back.
I had to rewatch.
I would have to go back, to see where each character is at the time, because one of them. No, that's not the time they would have been.
I think it's him.
They would have been in class. The econ class would have been during the first murder. He says, yeah.
No, that was during the econ classes during the ladder.
Oh, the latter part. Okay.
Because he's not in the apartment with them during that. So I don't know. That's either it's not. It's well, you know what though? I think right before that scene, they're all upstairs because they all freak out about the news report, And then Dermot calls them and says, "You need to come down to the station." And that's when they leave and they get attacked at the bodega.
Okay.
So it's probably Dermot.
Yeah.
Right?
Are all the kids
Quinn
are up
in the yeah. And what are they going to do? I'll be right back.
Okay. I just couldn't remember if Quinn and Ethan were both with them.
They are
in
up there.
Okay, so that's probably Dermot as
probably
well.
Dermot in the bodega, which makes sense. Like that person's skilled as shit. Like it's probably somebody who has police training. I guess he could train his kids, but that's Dermot. Who's next? Next on the proverbial psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist. That
I think it's Dermot. And my reason for saying that is that like
he knows where to go.
Immediately after the scene where she's like, "Yeah, I told my psychiatrist is my alibi," they cut to the psychiatrist getting stabbed through the nose.
Right.
So it's probably him. It could be anybody, I guess. What else do we got?
So are we getting to Gale yet?
The next attack would be.
Oh no! The next attack would be in the apartment.
That could either be Dermot or the son.
Ethan, yeah.
Now, the only reason that leads me to believe, once again, it's Dermot, is that the son is so adamant that he was seen by a bunch of people. Like, I was there. You can ask anybody. Like, it'd be pretty easy for Tad to shoot out a text and say, "Yo, was Ethan in?"
Yep.
So I think Dermot does a lot of the heavy lifting.
I do too, and I think that actually makes sense because he would not necessarily
want his kids constantly in danger, probably
in danger, or to get their hands dirty. Like he wants, like they're there.
To infiltrate the friends.
The trends and
to close things out
in directions that they want them to go with. Yeah.
And then you've got the Gale and the subway attack. Quinn says that she did both of those.
Okay.
At the end, she mentions that she was.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Because she's dead at this point, so she can freely run around and do whatever.
She can run around at this point. And
Plus,
I'm thinking of the way that Ghostface moves in those. Yeah, I think that.
Yep, she's a little more quick.
Yep.
On her feet. Yep, and she at that point, Ethan and this is when we're going to catch Ghostface, and Dermot's got the earpiece in the park, and Ethan's in the van. They couldn't have been doing any of that.
Right.
So that works, and then everything up until that point is there's no mystery to it.
No rhyme. Yeah.
The siblings are the one that stabbed Chad.
Yep.
So, yeah. So I think that's it.
All right.
Anyway,
anything else on the ghost faces?
No. Look. The plausibility of them even being able to do any of this is pretty insane to me.
And this is where I said at the beginning, this is the silliest scream. That's what I'm talking about. Is when the reveal comes, and I start to place together the events of the movie in my head. I'm like, this is some silly shit we're going on.
Really silly.
And Dermot is out of control.
Out of control.
I've got these next few handful here.
Yes.
Listed as the new blood, and we can go through them. But let's start with Danny Brackett, who I think has the biggest role of anybody.
Josh Segarra.
Who
I like quite a bit.
Yeah, he plays. What do they call him? Hot neighbor or something?
Yeah.
Hot neighbor. There's a great red herring moment though, because he's kind of a red herring throughout the movie.
He is. Yeah.
But
the love interest always is.
What is Coors Edge? Have you had Coors
Edge? Non-alcoholic. Nikki literally Googled it in the theater because she's like, I gotta know what that is.
So I liked that. That was in the bodega. They make sure the camera catches the Coors Edge, and then when he's drinking alone in his apartment, and when he comes in with a 6-pack, he's got Coors Light. So you're thinking it's just like a mental thing they did there. Yeah, because Ghostface isn't drinking Coors Edge, but they show it.
Interesting.
And then he's drinking Coors Light.
What if that was an actual clue that led to a Ghostface reveal? It was like the brand of beer that they drink Coors.
Yeah. I mean, it would make more sense than what we got.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
there are a lot of hints, though, to be fair. To the reveal eventually. I want to say it real quick. There are a lot of hints. I argue that they're almost too
many.
Pointed. And the only reason why I did not think going into Act 3 that Dermot and his daughter were, I thought that they were involved almost immediately after being introduced. The only reason I didn't was because of the daughter's fake-out death, and not because it was well done, because I thought to myself, there's no possible way they could have faked that.
Right.
With paramedics around, and yeah.
Anyway. So Danny Brackett is his name, which is a nice
reference to...
Nice Halloween reference. Josh Segarra, who is in She-Hulk, was what I've known from. Alex, I was talking to Alex a little bit after, the founder. There's an HBO Max show that sounds really funny that has not been canceled. But it kind of reminded me of Popstar a little bit, but he plays it's called The Other Two, I think is what he said. And it's a comedy, and Josh Segarra plays the other brother, I think, of a Justin Bieber style pop stars. And he's just kind of a big dumb puppy dog. He's good at playing a part. The only thing I want to say about him, and I liked him, but the ladder scene, hey man, maybe toss something across the way to get
Chuck
her.
a rock.
I think I even heard someone say it in the movie, like, throw something. Like, yeah, man, like, don't go run and get a ladder. Like,
his solution is to take a picture eventually and
yeah. So I thought, like, that was such a dumb character moment that I thought he had to be Ghostface for a while.
I thought he was going to be the last mask off there for a second.
Right.
But
what did you think of him?
Well, he rules.
Yeah.
He's sweet. He just hangs out in his apartment most of the time. Occasionally, he has a very beautiful woman come over and have sex with him.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't think he goes over there. I think she comes over to him.
She seems to go. Yeah,
because they don't
trying
know.
To keep it.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it on the DL. So that's cool. I respect that. He's sweet because he never once gets attacked in the movie. He avoids getting attacked at all costs. While everybody else in the movie is getting stabbed multiple times, he's like, nah. I don't even think he actually has an encounter with Ghostface at any juncture in the movie. He also, at the end, just shows up like, I brought the cops, which is what we probably all should have been doing.
Yeah.
And he's sweet. He rules. I hope he's in the next movie, and I hope he does the exact same shit. I hope he, like, isn't around near any of the attacks.
Yeah.
And he's constantly, like, just kind of there. And at the end, he shows up like, I brought the army. That's what I hope.
He's like in the Bond movies when they bring in the cavalry.
Exactly.
Annika, this is the girlfriend of Mindy, or at least are they girlfriend? I can't remember.
I think they're girlfriends. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were that serious. I didn't know if they put a label on it yet. But I forgot she. Honestly, when we talked about Mindy, I forgot she existed half the movie. She kept like popping up.
Oh yeah, she's fine. I mean, the actress is fine. The role is pretty underwritten. There's not a lot going on. She is playing Mindy's girlfriend. That's about it. She's there for us to have a moment that's an emotional death scene.
Someone we know kind of gets killed.
That gets killed. It's a good sequence. Her head hitting the trash can's really mean.
She's got a good, that is a good sequence, and she's got a really harsh.
It's really mean.
It's good.
And that's after she gets stabbed like in the belly button, and he like starts doing that.
A lot of twisting in this one.
A lot of twisty stuff.
A lot of twisting and up. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, no, she's fine. I don't have a lot to say about her, you know.
Dr. Christopher Stone, Henry Czerny, bearded Henry Czerny.
This was the second. It's not even a twist. This was the second moment after the opening where I went, "Ooh, I don't know where this is going." Because like as soon as we saw him, I went, that's one of the killers.
Right. He was even one of our
killers.
guesses. Like leading up to this, we're like, "Oh, he's got to be it."
Yeah.
Gotta be
I
it.
joked about Dermot. I was kind of hoping it would be. Now I'm not sure if that. I wished it into existence. But yeah, he gets killed really early on. He has like 1.5 scenes, and he's just done. And I was like, oh shit! I actually did not see that coming. I thought he'd at least be around longer to be more of a red herring. So I was surprised by that. That got me going, especially because Nikki turned to me and she goes, right after we see him in his first scene with Sam, Nikki turns and she goes, that's Richie's dad. And I went, oh, it is.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh shit. And then he gets killed. I'm like, oh no, it's not. And then I went, Dermot is. Dermot's Richie's dad, I said to her. And then the daughter thing happened and I went, oh, never mind. Okay. Anyway. But yeah, I love Henry Czerny.
Yes. Worked with them in the past.
Yes.
Yes, he's worked with
He's a lot of fun. Doesn't do a lot in this. Great killer beard, no pun intended. Gets stabbed through the nose, which is brutal. Pretty mean way to go. And then Dermot has a really goofy, wonky line where he's like, did you see the pictures? He got stabbed in the nose.
I laughed at that part.
That delivery was funny, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a good beard in this one. I don't have much to say about him.
Yeah.
I thought he would be one of the killers. He was not.
He was not.
All right, this will lead us into finally talking about the opening scene.
We're going to end with the opening.
Yeah. Tony Revolori, and Samara Weaving. I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick.
Yes.
I believe my minor was cinematic studies at Central Michigan University. And I'm going to say none of my professors look like Samara Weaving.
And if they did,
and I
wouldn't kill them.
My professors probably looked more like Henry Czerny
or Tony Revolori.
Yes, they were all just old white dudes with beards. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to see how think about how good he's got it here.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Samara Weaving. I'll say that.
So
beautiful woman.
She's great in this movie.
Really good.
She's great. Okay.
This is the saddest death for me.
This is a good, yeah.
Because she seems so like
she's kind of dorky.
Yeah, and just nice, and just wants to have a nice night out and maybe meet a guy. And
yeah,
it just feels like a night.
She likes to talk about movies. She's kind of I don't want to say she's embarrassed by her pursuit, but she's also like she doesn't want it all to be about that.
You know. And the death is really mean. Like you just keep. Yeah.
Where do you rank this one among the openings? I've actually got this. I was thinking about this I went on a walk. I think I've got this pretty high. 1 is my favorite. 2 is right there. The Jada Pinkett in the theater.
Yeah.
I think I might have this 3.
This is 3. Yeah. This is right now. It's firmly behind 2 for me, as far as
openings.
Yes.
Because
I think the only reason I say that is because this one works so well because we've become accustomed to what Scream openings are, and it subverts those expectations in a way that is really, really smart. But you need those other openings for that to
right.
Like Scream 1 and Scream 2 are just great sequences on their own without any sort of, But this is the best since 2, no question. It might be like tied with 2 for me. It's damn good.
I think it's very good. And this is one of the sequences that I think uses New York.
Yes,
to great effect.
Very.
3 is fine. 4 I don't like.
3's very by the numbers.
Yeah.
The voice changers a clever little bit.
Yeah.
4 is annoying. 5 is pretty good too.
5 is pretty good.
Yeah.
5 is just
feels like standard.
It's
back to basics.
5 is good.
Yeah.
5 is good. Yep. And then what about Jason Carvey is his name?
He's a ghost face. I'm hearing a lot of debate. Is Jason
he's
a ghost face? He made a call. Mm-hmm. He put the costume on, and he killed somebody. He's a ghost face. He's the least successful. Is Charlie Walker still the worst? I don't know. Up for you to think.
I like how mean the movie is to him, too. Yeah.
His partner is not a ghost face, though. The guy he was going to ghost face with.
Right. Greg,
Boy,
right?
He didn't do shit.
Yeah, Greg, right? Yes. I want to say this about his character too, because he's wearing the
4 Flies on Grey Velvet.
Yeah, he's wearing the Giallo shirt. Mm-hmm. So I want to say this, and I think this is in defense of not the motive so much, but as them, the writers and directors, throwing in a clever little, almost like we know how ridiculous this motive is because we're going to call back to Giallo movies where the motive is always insane. It doesn't make any sense.
Related to family, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. Where you really have to stretch credibility. And I think that, if I recall correctly, that one, some of the steps it takes, you're like, what?
Insanity.
What? Yeah. So I thought that was a really clever nod. And I liked that bit, and I like the opening, and
it rules.
I dug those characters. It was pretty predictable that they were going to be from the trailers and everything. That I thought they were going to be the ones. They were either going to get killed early or they were going to be involved.
I did not know it was going to go down like that, though.
Yeah.
When he took the mask off, I genuinely was like, "Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing?"
That's what I wanted to ask you. So, were you thinking we were going to get a movie where we knew Ghostface from the beginning there? And would you rather have had that?
There was a moment in time where I thought to myself, there's no way that we're going to know the whole time. So, like, in my brain, I went, we're going to know who one of the ghost faces is, and we're not going to know who their partner is. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So we'll still have a whodunit element, and we'll be watching Revelori's interactions with people to see if we can, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I thought that would be it. And then it kept going. Once he got back to his apartment, I went, he's going to get a call. And I think Nikki and Alex both realized at the same time, because they both were like, I heard Alex go, oh my God. Like, because I think he knew right then. I heard Nikki go, what? Yeah, so.
That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
Very good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right. That's a wrap on Scream 6.
We've talked a lot about Scream 6.
Let's talk real quick about Scream 7.
Yes.
Where do you think this is going? You said you had some theories.
Well, here's what I would do in all my, on all my creative genius. I think you gotta look. This one definitely plays off of the Scream 5 plays off of the first movie in fun ways. It's very similar in a lot of ways by design, including ending at the same house. Scream 2 or Scream 6, I keep calling it Scream 2. Scream 6 plays off of Scream 2. It's even called out. Takes place when the kids are all away at college. The movie ends in a theater. Like,
oh yeah, I like that stuff. That's good at Easter eggs. Yeah.
There's the parental aspect to the killer's motive. Very much. I think we're going to do it again with Scream 7.
Call back Scream 3.
And what does that mean, you might ask? Well, of course, we get the tribal chief in Scream 3, long lost brother of Sidney. I think it's going to go one of two ways. We are either going to have another spawn of Billy, because Billy was getting around back then.
He seemed to be, yeah.
Yep. And we're going to have a half-sibling to Sam who has, instead of fought the impulses, these dark impulses, embraced them and become
this other, okay,
who has embraced the impulses and essentially become everything Sam feared she would become, and now she's got to do battle with the dark version of herself, essentially. That could be interesting. Does it repeat on the Scream 3 thing? Well, yeah, but I don't think they're afraid to do that.
No.
Or you do the same thing, but it's Stu's kid. And so now you've got, let's say Billy and Stu both
fathered.
And maybe it was part of their whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe Billy and Stu were like, hey, we're going to, it'd be kind of cool. Part of Billy and Stu's plan, like, hey, if we get killed off,
we have
and we're going to leave
heir.
We're going to leave something for one of the kids so they can find each other one day. And
yeah.
What if, like, Stu's dark son or daughter shows up and she's like, Sam, it's time for us to finally...
There was a question mark by Stu, right?
Yeah, there was.
They're screwing with people. I like it.
Yeah,
they're definitely screwing
so
people.
that, and then there was also there's the line. There's the line where when Mindy and Kirby are sitting in the theater on the stage together, and Kirby goes, like, oh, that's the TV that killed Stu Mock, or that's what Kirby says, and then Mindy goes, yeah, if you believe it, and then Kirby doesn't say anything. She just goes quiet. Like, so she knows.
I think they're screwing with people here, like, totally.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to bring Stu back.
I don't think so either. The other question I have is, so we've kept the mom burning in the background for two movies.
The mom's going to be a factor.
It has to be, right?
Yes. I do not think she's going to be a killer. I think she's going to be either a red herring or something that she's done in the past. What if she's... I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. Something that she did back then. They also set up Leslie Mocker at one point in the last movie. They specifically call out a name. They never just say, like, the guy, Vince, the gross guy. That gets stabbed.
Yeah.
They never just say, like, oh, it was Stu Mocker's nephew. They say it's Leslie Mocker's son, not Stu Mocker's nephew. There's a difference there, okay?
Yeah.
There's a... Why make up a name for the character when it doesn't really... So I think we're going to get some dark secrets about stuff that happened back during the original murders here. But what was it?
Yeah.
Could they go as deep as having Sam and Tara's mom maybe have known that Billy and Stu were planning it?
You think we're finishing out a trilogy here on this next one?
I think they're going to do another movie with this cast and then take a break. I think you have to.
So, I think
they're going to have to, because some of these actors are blowing up now.
I think taking a break is, like, I've come to realize that's a good thing in a lot of ways. Like, it's you miss it. You do. So, okay.
I think we need a break after 7.
I do too. And I'm in the same boat with the Halloween movies now. I think we need a couple years, like more than a couple years. We need a break.
Halloween, I'm cool with, like, a solid, like, 5 or 6 year
gap.
And
then we can come back and do whatever in 5 or 6 years. Yep. I might be in the same boat with Scream 3. We'll see.
I agree.
All right.
Excellent. What do you want from 7? Are you cool with any of that?
The only thing I would like to see is, I kind of mentioned, I would like to see a payoff to the mom stuff.
You have to.
And I would like to see them. I'm hoping it's the same creative team, honestly, because that at least will. I think you have a better. Because part of the problem with Scream 3 is they brought in Aaron Kruger.
Well, the writers of 5 and 6 are the ones working on 7.
Good, and I'm hoping it's the same directors as well.
I hope so. I hope they're able to do it.
Honestly, because
I got Escape from New York brewing too. So
yeah, I would rather see Scream 3. And then they can get to Escape from. We can get to that some other time. We can get to them later. Or we can get Escape from New York. I'm not waiting for.
Yeah.
But I like them, and I think they have a good handle on these characters in this trilogy, and I want to see them cap it off, because I feel like we didn't get that with the first trilogy.
No.
And I'm not someone who hates Scream 3.
But there's a piece missing from Scream 3, and it's Kevin Williamson.
It felt compromised. Yeah. And at the very least, I want to see these people move on, and then we can do whatever we want to with the franchise after. I think we're moving away from, like, each franchise has to have a streaming show now. I don't think we're going to get that. I think we'll continue to get movies. It's been nice to see the box office bounce back a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially this year with Megan was a big hit, Scream was a hit, and Creed is gone.
It feels good.
It feels good because I don't need. I love Scream the series, but like I always think. I don't know.
It's fun.
We're gonna spin this off and do some streaming series.
I will say, post Scream 7, if you take a break for a while and you come back, I think I would like something that is not brand new, like a full-on reboot. It can take place in the same universe. It can have Ghostface showing up somewhere, but I'd almost like it to be completely unrelated to any Sidney, Billy Loomis, any of like. I don't need any of those characters to show up necessarily.
Yeah.
You know what? You kind of could do it now. You have Kirby show up. You can have completely unrelated, like, series of Ghostface killings that start up with new characters and a fresh motive and a fresh reveal and everything, not tied to the old stuff. And if you really want to bring in a character, you have Kirby show up because she's an FBI agent that investigates these kind of things.
And that's kind of the thing I like about the MTV series too, and I liked about it at the time is at least it was keeping it alive. During the time, I didn't take it like seriously either. No. Like I had fun with it, and it kept it alive until we got to where we got to. Because honestly, people forget too that I think 4 underwhelmed big time.
Big time.
Yeah.
No, I thought, well, we're never going to get another Scream movie.
And I think the MTV thing played a nice part in like keeping people satisfied, and then also giving them time to do what they've done, which I've liked a lot.
For sure.
Very cool.
Awesome.
All right. So we'll be back when we're back. I'll be back. When I'm back, you may hear some stuff from Willie and Nikki.
Perhaps.
So keep an ear out for that. But thank you everybody for listening. Take care and stay safe out there.